Attention higher ed leaders. Are you ready to transform your marketing and enrollment strategy? Don't miss Insights EDU, February 12th through 14th in New Orleans, the premier conference for higher education marketing and enrollment management. Spots are filling fast. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go!
Ellucian Live is taking place April 6th through 9th, 2025 in Orlando, Florida.
You just made the list!
Get ready for an unforgettable experience at Ellucian Live 2025. Join visionary leaders from institutions worldwide as we dive into groundbreaking ideas, cutting-edge solutions, and transformative best practices that will ignite your passion for innovation. This is your chance to connect, collaborate, and propel your institution into the future. Do not miss out.
Let's go!
Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode as we continue to interview amazing leaders and trailblazers across the world, frankly, in higher education here on the EdUp Experience podcast. If you didn't know, we are coming up rapidly on our 5-year anniversary. And we had one really big what's the big BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal that we wanted to achieve by the time our 5th anniversary came around? And that was to pass 400,000 plays of our podcast episodes. And we have achieved that. We achieved that actually in October of 2024. Our episodes have been played more than 400,000 times in over 180 countries, 188 countries by what the metrics say. I don't know how many countries there actually are, but I'm not sure there's more than 188 or not many more anyway. Some of them I've never even heard of before. But that's what the metrics say. And we're honored, especially since the first year we only had 11,000 plays of our episodes, which seems like a ton at that point. So for the last 4 years, we've averaged somewhere around 100,000 plays of our episodes. And it is truly a humbling experience when I find somebody that says they listen to it on their treadmill or on their way to and from work. And we want to keep cranking out. And by cranking out, I mean, we are booked every day from now until the middle of February or the beginning of March, as I record 12 Central daily here on the EdUp Experience podcast. And I have somebody with me today who's ready, rearing to go in his office, which looks like it's on a top floor somewhere or a high floor in downtown New York City, somewhere in New York City, Manhattan. Let's bring him to the microphone right now. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Dr. Alan Kadish. He's the president at Touro University. Alan, welcome to EdUp. Mike, how are you?
Thank you so much. We're actually at Times Square.
Oh,
3 Times
nice.
Square. And we're nowhere near the top, but we've got a nice view.
Well, you're definitely not at the bottom either, because I could tell. There's a drop there. I think you might die if you jump out the window. Don't jump out the window, even though serving students is very hard, Alan. I know. Stay focused for me. And
we were very concerned about that. Which is why we did not build windows that open.
Smart move.
There's no way I can do that.
Surprise!
Well, that's a good thing. And let's not try anyway. But look, tell us about, you told us where you are in New York City, but I think Touro's got multiple locations. Give us the landscape. Tell us about Touro University. What do you do and how do you do it?
So Touro University is an unusual university in that we have a tremendous amount of geographic and academic diversity. We're actually in 11 cities now. Berlin, Jerusalem, still in Moscow, which has been a trip, and in 8 cities in the United States, including Los Angeles, outside of San Francisco, outside of Vegas, New York, Chicago, Albuquerque, Great Falls, Montana, and Boca Raton, Florida.
Can you go through those one more time for me? I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Keep going.
And we have 5,500 undergraduates, and the remainder of our 19,500 students are graduate and professional students. Our biggest area of focus is healthcare. We run 6 medical school campuses. We're about to open our second dental school campus, and we have a number of other health science schools. Now, when I said that's how it takes care of the geographic diversity, as far as the academic diversity is concerned, we have some very highly selective schools. The admission rate to New York Medical College is about 4.5%. But we also have schools that are designed to train students who come from non-traditional academic backgrounds. And there we have a very high acceptance rate because we're trying to spread the net widely. So both geographically and academically, we're an unusual place. And we've gotten there, of course, using a model that's pretty unique in higher education, which is that we're willing to go to different places when we feel that we have the expertise and we have the talent to meet community needs and can take advantage of synergies and collaborations, which, of course, since COVID and people getting used to Zoom, has become much easier.
Amazing.
So, of course, the first question is going to be what's going on with the Moscow campus right now. That must be politically challenging, nationally challenging. Is that causing disruption to your operations, the war and all that?
So we actually have 2 different campuses in Moscow. One that we run semi-independently, and that campus has basically closed down. The other campus we run in collaboration. We're not a faith-based institution, but we are a Jewish-sponsored institution. And so some of our focus is on preserving and enhancing the Jewish heritage. So in Moscow, we collaborate with a Russian Jewish university that's based in the city. And that program actually is doing okay. It hasn't been impacted by the tensions related to the war. We thought carefully about, do we still want to keep doing business in Moscow? That was a serious discussion a couple of years back. And at the end of the day, our board decided that given that we were helping students, it's not a large program. The other program was larger. This program has only about 100 students. But we decided that since we were helping students who might at some point want a degree outside of Russia, that this was a mission-based program that we should try to continue. We just went through a middle stage accreditation, and the campus was well viewed as being good. So we're going to continue to serve those students as long as we can.
You know, I like that because, education should supersede politics. It's tough. It's there. I know the morality and those questions come up, but especially as you're teaching a Jewish foundation and you're in a part of the world where students can benefit from that knowledge, it seems like common sense that you as a provider of education would provide that education, especially in times when it's not easy, right?
So that's been our mission all along. It was a challenge. It was a challenge because for a while, until we got the appropriate exemption from New York State, we actually couldn't send money to Moscow because it was embargoed, except when there are certain public service and community needs. So we were able to get through that, but it created some temporary disruptions. Fortunately, our partners pulled us through that. And we're back to the situation we were in. As I said, we have about 100 students in the program, and they're doing well. They're wondering, like all of us, what in the world's going to happen. Yep. But they're academically doing well.
You know, I'm looking at your portfolio, and immediately, because you talked about the uniqueness of your institution, as a higher ed junkie myself, I start to think about all of the little bits that have to be managed, from the selectivity of one college to the openness of another, and how the policies need to be completely different, rewritten for those different types of students, right? Because you could be have one policy for an 18-year-old coming-of-age student who's coming into a university, and if you put a 48-year-old student in there with 2 kids and who's going to do some ins and outs, that policy fails that student. And so you have to have different, each student demands different structures. When you talk about uniqueness, there's a lot of management in that, and not just operational from your level as the CEO and president, but from, I don't know, academic operations and policy and SAP and Title IV disbursement and all those bits. How do you keep it straight? What does your foundation look like, and your generals, so to speak, and who manages all that day to day?
So we have provosts who are really, really good at what they do, who have a very high level of responsibility. There's no way we could manage this complexity from one place with one person. And we expect our provosts, so they're, just take a step back, as you know, in higher education, there are kind of two models of provosts. One model is a provost who's purely in charge of academics, and the other model is a provost who's really a chief operating officer.
Yep.
For us to make this work, the model is that the provosts, who have slightly different titles in different places, but essentially they function as provosts. Our provosts are chief operating officers. And we look for people who can do the academic piece of the job, but also do the management piece of the job. Because as you point out, there's not only diversity, but also geographic issues. So we have to have people who can function as chief operating officers in addition to being provosts. And we've been lucky that we have a bunch of really talented people who serve as provosts. I'll give you one example, someone who's not at Touro anymore, so that I don't have to be seen as playing favorites.
You mentioned one and not the others. Always got to watch out for that.
So the new mayor of Las Vegas, who was a 6th-term congresswoman from Nevada, Shelley Berkeley, was our provost out west for 8 years.
Fantastic.
And she was phenomenal. And she was someone who had previously been a UNLV trustee, so she knew something about higher education. She probably learned something in 12 years in Congress, and was able to do the job of managing the academics, obviously with subject matter experts in each of the fields, and function as a chief operating officer. And so those are the kinds of people who are our provosts, and that's how we manage to get this done. We do have a very thin administrative structure. We spend about 18% of our budget on administration.
That is slim.
So we have some really good people who are able to get things done and get things done well without a lot of staff redundancy. And so we're able to invest our money in education, and that's what our mission is. And so we're pleased with that.
Are your 55, you said about 55 undergraduate and then the balance were adult and continuing ed. Are they in one place, your undergrads? Are they primarily in one place, or they just burst out through your multiple cities?
So just to clarify, the others are not, are in grad schools. They're not, most of them, they're not adult learners. So they're medical students, they're dental students.
Okay.
They're PAs, they're law students, they're business students. We have all of those schools. Most of our students in the graduate schools have gone the absolutely traditional route.
Right.
Which is,
so just beyond, just post undergrad, essentially.
Post undergrad.
Yeah.
Our undergraduate students, the majority are in the New York metropolitan area, and they're really in two different divisions. One is a general undergraduate college that specializes in small classes and high contact education. And that's about half of our undergrads. And the other half of our undergrads are in schools for the Jewish community. Most of our students in the university are not Jewish because our graduate schools are incredibly diverse. And in fact, we have some diversity programs that I can talk to you about in a moment. But on the undergraduate level, about half of our undergrads are in schools serving the Jewish community, mostly in New York, but also in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Jerusalem.
When you said your general undergraduate college was in high contact education, what does that mean exactly?
So our typical class size is about 15. We have a lot of individualized intention. Some of them are in specific track training programs like ultrasonography or radiology, but some are general liberal arts majors. But they come to us because we have a long track record of being able to take students from non-traditional backgrounds and have them succeed. That's not all the students, but it's some of them. That school actually originally started as a school 25 years ago, which focused on Russian immigrants. So when Russian immigrants, first generation immigrants, came to the United States, that school was designed initially to serve them, and now has expanded to a much more diverse and broader student population.
So talk about the uniqueness of the program serving the Jewish community, the students, and what types of programs, how are they constructed, fashioned, and why significant? And are they poised to grow? Are they mission-based? Talk to us about how you model them.
So there are actually, even within the program serving the Jewish undergraduates, there are two different models. One is a model that combines Jewish studies with college academic studies. And that model is about half of the students in those programs. And essentially, specific Jewish studies courses, which are extensive, are integrated into the academic day. And those schools are growing. And those schools are for students who want that combination of Jewish studies and high quality academics. Graduates of those schools work in high tech, for big tech. They go to med school, they go to law school, they do almost anything. And programs in those schools are highly competitive. And they're both residential campuses.
Okay.
And so it's a full college experience. The other students are students who have programs that don't have extensive Jewish studies requirements, either because that's not what they're focused on or because they've done that already or are doing that in parallel. And they're simply commuter undergraduate schools where, again, they're all liberal arts degrees. So there's a 32 credit core. And whether students get a BS or a BA, the liberal arts core is the same. But they're, I would say, not full service campuses, and essentially they're commuter schools. There are modest extracurricular activities, but those are students who just want to go do the academics and get a degree. So those schools are growing in the past year. I think there may be a number of explanations for that, but I think the atmosphere on some other college campuses is responsible for some of the growth. In particular, putting some numbers behind it, we haven't seen a huge change in the overall enrollment, but first-year enrollment is up 30% this year. That's a big number.
Huge number.
Yeah.
Not a lot of schools see a number like that, unless it's into the negative.
Yeah. So we've been very lucky, and we've, just to put the two different pieces of our campuses together, we try very hard to make sure that we're a welcoming place for everyone, but that in particular, that Jewish students feel comfortable.
Yeah, you bring up an important point, and I don't, without getting political, I think it would be a disservice not to recognize that we have a very charged political and social environment. And, and you kind of alluded to it, there are going to be Jewish students that are dispersed around colleges and universities across this country, maybe have experienced a less than favorable environment lately. Are you seeing more transfers? Are you seeing greater is the interest among Jewish students to reconnect with their backgrounds in a safe place part of what you see in that enrollment growth? So maybe talk about that situation, what you're seeing to the level that you feel comfortable.
Sure. We have certainly seen students who have transferred from all over the place because they're not comfortable in the environments they're currently in. And of our new students this year, 60% are transfers.
Wow. I mean, it tells a significant story. Obviously. It
tells a significant story. But viewed in the overall landscape of higher education, it's a small minority of Jewish students. So I don't want to give anyone the impression that there's this groundswell that Jewish students are leaving every other college. We've seen an increase. It's significant, it's real, and it's one that we're happy to be able to accommodate. But it's not sort of the Jewish students can't feel comfortable anywhere. I don't want to create that depression.
Do you think that, what do you do to ensure that those students feel comfortable? I mean, because you're still a big city with lots of activity. Do you have to focus extra effort and student services on belonging, on campus security, so on and so on, to ensure that those students are not disrupted, right? Because disrupting an education is what we're all trying to prevent. And there are a lot of things that can disrupt us as students.
So I would divide our response into sort of two different areas. One is supporting students, which involves better security, which we have put in place, although we've never had a problem on campus.
That's amazing.
Which is unbelievable, and we're unbelievably lucky. But we've put in better security. We've added mental health services, and we've had a big increase in the utilization of mental health services among students who feel stressed. But we have a significant population of other students in our schools.
Yeah.
And we've tried very hard to allow people within the bounds of reasonableness to express themselves, to have academic freedom, as long as it doesn't threaten others. So we've worked hard to try to create that atmosphere on campus. And it works both ways. There's students of all types these days who feel uncomfortable. And we've worked very hard creating policies to try to make it a big tent and everyone comfortable. Is it perfect? As I said, we've never had a demonstration on campus. To my knowledge, we've had one incident where somebody was called out on campus. That was actually the president of the university. A
story for another day, perhaps.
But behind the scenes on social media, there certainly have been some things that have gone on, but we've tried very hard to make everybody feel comfortable in this very highly charged environment, and we've been very lucky.
Epic.
Can you maybe nuance this for us, because you have so many different types of locations in big cities, less than big, so the student services won't be the same everywhere. There's going to be nuance to them, different funding models in those student services where, in New York City, maybe there's a lot of stress around transportation, where in another location you have less stress around transportation and commuter. Is that up to the provost to say, here's my area, here's the trends of students and what they're dealing with in this area, and this is how we fund it? Or do you have some tenets that you kind of ride with from the top down to say, these are our values, these are our cores, and this is how we fund student success and student wellness in general?
So I would divide that into strategy and tactics. The strategy is the same everywhere, to try to make sure this is a safe place where we focus on education, not on politics, but make everybody comfortable to the extent we can. That's the strategy, and the strategy is the same everywhere, and that we support students where they need it. The tactics, as you point out, will vary from campus to campus, and the tactics are in the hands of the provosts. I would say that the mental health challenges that we've seen have been more in the New York City metropolitan area than in some of the other places. And that's probably understandable. We're about 15 miles north of San Francisco, and that's a campus that sometimes has its challenges. Mm-hmm. The provost there has done a great job at trying to make everybody feel comfortable. And again, we've had no disruptions of education and no demonstrations on campus. So we're going to continue to work on those things. I'm not sure that this is, the same model will work everywhere, because different groups, as you point out, not just at Touro, but throughout America, different campuses have different sort of cultures and ways forward. In general, many of our campuses are graduate and health science campuses. And that's a place where, in general throughout the United States, again, not at Touro, there have been fewer disruptions.
Right.
And so part of it is just the mix we have. But it's something that every college president has to deal with, thinking about, at least on a daily basis, and it's occupied a lot of time and energy for us. And we think it's been time and energy well spent.
So if you look back, pre-COVID, go through COVID, it's kind of like we haven't been without some kind of major social disruption for a bit, coming out of a giant worldwide epidemic and moving to very sensitive social issues, elections, and protests and so on. How has your enrollment been over the last few years? Have you stabilized? A lot of institutions have frankly just closed. Have you seen ups and downs? Have you stabilized? And what's the future look like in your mind? Because medical is important. We need more medical professionals, not less. And so that's obviously an area many are investing in. Give us maybe a 5-year look back and what the future looks like.
You just made the list.
Mark your calendars for Insights EDU 2025, February 12th through 14th. Insights EDU 2025 is the can't-miss higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're taking over New Orleans with speakers from Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the country. Discover how AI is transforming marketing and enrollment management, how to assess online program opportunities, and meet the demands of today's modern learner. Don't wait. Spots are going quickly. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go.
Are you going to miss Ellucian Live this year?
I don't think so.
Exactly. So you might as well register right now at elive.ellucian.com. Ellucian Live 2025, April 6th through 9th in Orlando, Florida. Do not miss it.
Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe today.
So we've had overall over 5 years, very small increases in enrollment.
I mean, that's still great, though, if you think about it.
Well, our strategic plan, we do have a strategic plan, and our strategic plan is not predicated on dramatic increases in numbers. We're interested in making sure the student experience is great. We're interested in increasing our research profile, which we have done over the past 3-4 years. So the fact that the number of students has only increased by a few hundred is not a failure to meet our strategic plan, because we think we're about 19,500, 20,000 students. We think that's a good number.
Yeah.
We'll be very happy to keep that number of students, keep excellent student outcomes, and, as I said, improve our research profile, improve our student outcomes. So why have we been lucky enough to have those enrollment changes? So the first thing is...
That's a great question, Alan. I'm glad you asked it of yourself. That's great.
Through a combination of serendipity and planning, we sailed through COVID. And when I say we sailed through COVID, is we made a decision on Monday to go remote. And on Wednesday, 98% of our classes were active remotely.
It's incredible.
So how did we do that? We did that because, and this is where the serendipity comes in 2015, one of the founders of Zoom, who's a graduate of New York Medical College, which is our MD school, came to us and said, I've got this great thing called Zoom. Why don't we get you on it and we'll give you a great deal? So we've been using Zoom since 2015.
That is a little bit of serendipity.
So there was plenty of serendipity there. We also have a great chief technology officer who was the CTO at Harvard for 12 years before he came to Touro. And he really put together a great team that was able to handle this conversion. We did a trial run a week or two before because we thought we might have to do this. So there was some planning involved. But I think our students appreciated the fact that, unlike some other people, they didn't have major disruptions in education, although, of course, we had to go remotely. Our dental clinic was open the first day that New York State allowed us to reopen, which was about 3 months after the pandemic started. We had our dental clinic reopened. So we managed to get through those technical aspects of COVID pretty well. And like everybody else, we spent a lot of time wondering, what do we do about vaccine mandates?
Yep.
How do we protect faculty and students? That's where my background as a clinical researcher helped a lot. I was able to evaluate the information that was around and was used to making decisions, as you have to in medicine, with incomplete information. So I don't know about the first 11 years, but my background as a cardiologist, even though it's cardiology, not infectious disease, really made a difference.
Yeah, I guess that does probably help.
So I mean, as much as it's possible to say that we sailed through COVID, we sailed through COVID. We had 2 or 3 people who passed away. And that was it. And it's remarkable. So COVID really was not a major issue. It was a major issue on the day-to-day basis, but not in terms of the overall arc of the institution. And of course, the government funds that were provided to universities to help get through COVID made a big difference in meaning that the extra things we had to do because of COVID didn't adversely impact us financially. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. That's keep going. I don't want to interrupt you.
So that was COVID. It wasn't fun, but
nobody ever comes on and goes, "I loved COVID."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun, but the institution really did well. There were some other things. Only a small part of our institution is residential, so the loss in dorm revenue was more than made up for by the government funds. So there were some things that worked in our favor. October 7th has created, of course, a new set of challenges. But we've really talked about the ways we've tried to deal with those. And we've started some new programs, and we're in the process of acquiring some new programs, and that's compensated for some small decreases in other programs. So we started a new campus in Great Falls, Montana, a new osteopathic medical campus in a state which didn't have a medical school, which is a branch of some of our other osteopathic schools, taking a lot of advantage of synergy. We have about 300 students there. So we have some new programs that have more than compensated for some small decreases in enrollment in some of the legacy programs.
Now, when you say you're acquiring new programs, does that mean through schools that are having financial troubles or closing that you're acquiring those programs? Do you want to give a dish on any information you might have there out?
Well, one of them is public. The New York College of Podiatric Medicine is hopefully going to join us very soon. We're still waiting for some final regulatory approval. But there are a lot of synergies between our medical schools and the College of Podiatric Medicine. They're a standalone institution. It's very tough to run a standalone institution with a few hundred students, with all the regulatory requirements and the back office requirements. But we think there are a lot of synergies with our medical programs and with the College of Podiatric Medicine. Podiatry is a field that's in a complicated place right now, but we do have our own undergraduates and master's graduates who want to go into podiatry. And so it's a good fit for us. But that's an example that will add a few hundred students to us from an existing program. By and large, and we've looked at a lot, as you alluded to, there are a lot of colleges that are in trouble. A lot of them have come to us and say, do you want to take over? And unfortunately, except for the New York College of Podiatric Medicine and a small radiology program, which we took over from Health and Hospitals, we haven't found ones where we can provide the sort of change in the model that will make a difference and be synergistic. But we've looked at several colleges that have struggled, some that have managed to stay open, some that have closed. And we've taken a serious look at it to see if we can enhance our mission and enhance higher education by helping them move forward. We've done it with 2 research institutes, but that's a little bit different than educational institutions.
Yes.
Those 2 research institutes have been fantastically accretive to us. One in Albuquerque, one in Great Falls, Montana. But on the educational side, most of the things we've looked at, we haven't been able to figure out a way to change the paradigm. Usually it's because we get there a little bit too late.
Well,
There's ideas we could,
yeah,
we
not that
could
you
put
get
in.
there too late. Usually it's the school that comes to their potential suitor too late because they've waited till they're upside down on their expense and revenues, and the potential suitor, we still have to operate as businesses in higher education, of course, look at this and go, oh, wow, we'd love to help those students, but it's going to be it's going to sink a bunch of money into this and hurt our own students and our own institution. That's very common out there, as many boards do not take action at a minimum 2 years before you're going to see those financial stressors, right? I mean, so you see these schools and they're upside down and you go, we can't help at that point.
So you've characterized the situation absolutely correctly. That's exactly what we've seen. And in 2 cases where we would have found it very interesting, they actually missed a class because they had let it go so far that they had to stop admitting students and then wanted us to come in and try to fix things with an entire class devoid of revenue. And as you point out, just didn't work.
Yeah, once you start missing, once you stop enrollment or pause enrollment, you can never get back the momentum that you had the first time. It just doesn't happen. So it's just a really good call out for those out there that are experiencing financial concerns. You got to go to your suitor early and start those conversations early, or else it doesn't work. And it's in the best interest of everyone to help students and have institutions survive, or at least have their students transfer over through teach out or whatever else. Ellen, as you look from your view, really a 50,000 foot view, and you've got all these locations and all these campuses, all these different types of students, both undergrad, postgrad, you really seem to be very passionate about medical programs, and the future really is medical, right? Whether it's in your background's medical. By the way, I didn't know that you were only the second president at Touro. So you have to tell me that in a second, but there's passion around medical. What does the future look like for Touro? Do you go more medical? Do you become an institution that's pumping out medical graduates, to the tens of thousands across the country? Do you stay with liberal arts? Is it about finding the right balance? Talk to us about, academic balance, so to speak.
So it's a great question. We are continuing to expand some of our medical programs, but quite frankly, it's already so much of a large part of the institution that it would, I think, distort our general academic mission to do too much more of it. We have once the classes are filled out, we will have 4,000 medical students at Touro.
It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
So I don't think we're going to push it that much more. I think, though, that we hope to continue to be able to fill all those programs. The one exception I would say is PA. Every single hospital, and we have about 250 hospital affiliations around the country with our different programs. Every single hospital wants to hire PAs. So we're opening a PA program in Los Angeles in January. We're oversubscribed, as always. And we know that everyone will get a 6-figure offer the day they graduate. So the one place we are expanding is in PA programs.
Yep.
I mentioned that we're beginning to focus more on research. And we're also focusing more on technology, particularly technology integrating with our other programs. We hired an AI provost from the Illinois Institute of Technology last year, and we're planning to integrate AI into a lot of aspects of our operations. We're not a school that is focusing on cheating with AI. We think although of course we're doing it, but that's not where our focus is. We think that worrying about who's cheating with AI is missing the point.
Saying it well, my friend. Well done.
We're trying to use AI to enhance the learning experience, make sure students know how to use it best, and to help with operations when it can be. So there was a medical article that was published this week which showed that in certain diagnostic situations, AI actually did better than physicians, even though the physicians were allowed to use AI, because the physicians didn't know how to use AI to enhance their decision-making. They didn't trust it, didn't use it right. So AI alone did better than the docs who could also use AI, not because these were bad doctors, but because they didn't sufficiently understand what the strengths and limitations of AI were. So that's
Imagine a doctor with a creativity and a creative mind, what they can do if they're using AI to enhance their work. Then you're talking about major medical breakthroughs in the future, I think.
And that's what we're trying to look at Touro.
Well, I love it. So, from your vantage point, you said 20,000, let's just call it 20,000 students is a good sweet spot for you. Does that mean that you're adverse to additional expansion in terms of location? Do you think you're in the spots you need to be? That's a whole nother part of operations management, right? Like, where are the locations? Do you own them or lease them? Do you expand them in square footage and space and so on? Do you when you think about 21,000 students or not, are there additional locations in your mind, or is there a scenario where you go, hey, India or China? Is that coming up in conversation?
So I think that we're going to leave India and China to others. We're good with Moscow. That's enough of a challenge.
No more hard. Yeah.
We're going to leave India and China to others, but we are considering new locations in the United States when they make sense. We have a very scripted strategic planning process where any new program or any new initiative goes through a very detailed process to look at the academic implications, the community implications, the financial implications. So we don't do anything, be it a new program, a new location, without going through that very detailed process. And so we're not averse to expansion. If something makes sense within that framework, we'll do it. But my real point is we're not interested in expanding just for expansion's sake, because I think that can lead you to ignore your existing programs and not do the best job for your students.
Or overbuild yourself, right? Yeah. You just become overbuilt because you start to spread your resources thin, to your point. But I do want to come back. You're the second president ever of Touro. You've been there since 2009. Does that sound right?
I have. That's right.
That's so you're also busting the overall presidential tenure of 5 years. You're busting that by a couple years here and there. So you've been doing it a while, which means that Touro has your fingerprints on it to a large degree over a great number of years. So I don't know how long you're going to go, but do you think about succession planning? Do you think about what you want to do next, if anything? Do you think about how long you want to go for? Do you want to go to 2034, 2074? I mean, you have those thoughts around your future as well?
So those are great questions.
And I say this as a 21-year-old man that you are. I just want to let you know, so just wondering what your future looks like.
So this is going to be my last job. I think I have the greatest job in the world. I get to meet a lot of interesting people. I get to deal with students. I teach an occasional class. I get to travel around the country and the world talking about Touro. I get to be on great podcasts like this one.
I'll pay you later for that. Thank you.
So I'm having a great time, and I think we're doing something important and unique. So this is my last job. I have no specific time frame. My predecessor hired me when he was 94. I don't think I'm going to quite get there, but I don't have any specific sunset time frame. And without revealing anything publicly, we have, as part of our enterprise risk management process, which is very regimented and very extensive, run by Dr. Sabine Charles, our internal auditor, we have a succession planning process.
Yeah.
And so that's in place. But I'm good.
Yet unusable because you want, when you love something, I mean, I think this is the point. When you love it and you are passionate about it and you're seeing the results, and you have a great relationship that those that oversee the university or boards or whomever else, and you can move the university the way it needs to be moved. There's something to be said for having that experience and being able to massage certain things through that help the university maybe faster than somebody else might. This is sometimes a hard environment, regulatory wise. We're going to see some disruption at the federal level. We don't know what that means for accreditors. We don't know what that means for different types of funding. So sometimes stability is a good thing, don't you think?
So I think, look, being college university president anywhere right now is a complicated job.
True.
But given what we've talked about in terms of what Touro is like, this is a more complicated job than most of them. So it's going to take, no matter how talented, it's going to take some time for someone, in 2074 who's taken over to learn it.
By then
So-
you'll be 51.
So we're going to plan on that, on making sure that they have time. But this is not a job for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
I mean, no college and university president job is, but I think we deal at Touro with a range of complexity that's actually greater than most institutions, which makes it fun and challenging, makes us do a lot of good. But it is complicated, and I think you're absolutely right. Some of our success has been because not only me, but a lot of our senior management team has been with me for the whole 15 years or close to it. So that's really been a big factor in our success, is the stability on the, we pretty much everybody in our senior management team, at least in New York, there's been some changes, as I mentioned to you, out west, but in New York, pretty much everybody in the senior management team has been together for a decade. And that really has enhanced our ability to work together and enhanced our ability to manage a complicated organization and move it forward and survive what, as you correctly pointed out earlier in the podcast, it's been a nightmarish 4 years. I mean, the fact that I talked about how we got through it, doesn't mean there weren't a lot of sleepless nights here.
Well, and we now we can look back not that long ago and go, oh yeah, we did this in 2 days. Those 2 days, those 48 straight hours of talking and the potential disruption that could have happened. We forget how impactful that was on all of us. But I do want to say that the cliche that you said, that being a college president, I think it's a cliche, is not for the faint of heart. When said by a cardiologist, it seems like that means more than if by somebody that's not a cardiologist that says it, right?
It's absolutely true. But I will tell you this. About 3 or 4 years into the job, someone said to me, how do you handle all the stress? I mean, this must be tough. And what I said to him is, listen, in my last job, when things didn't go well, people died. At this point, at least until COVID, nobody was dying. So it is actually a perspective from my past that sometimes I have to, usually it's subconscious, but sometimes I have to say to myself, yeah, we've got some issues, but nobody died today.
Yeah, that's you know what? Sometimes it does take that to move on. What's the secret? As we round out this episode, you've been a president for many years across a very unique institution in multiple cities, multiple states, multiple countries. You've got a great staying power, obviously. What's the secret to a long, positive and effective college presidency from your opinion? What would you say to the younger you, I should say, coming in on his first year?
So I think the relationship to the board and to the faculty are the two most important things. And I've had a very supportive board. It's there are actually 27 people on the main Touro board. They're all in their own way unbelievably talented and have been very supportive, and that's extremely important. And I'm pretty transparent with the faculty, and that's something in some of the prior universities I was at that wasn't always the case. I was at Northwestern, Michigan, Penn, and Harvard in reverse order before I came to Touro. And so I'm pretty transparent with the faculty, and that's something I found they've appreciated. And they've understood that ultimately there are some challenges, but we're trying to move forward together. We can't always do everything that the faculty wants, but we try our best. And I think they've sort of understood that. And so I think the positive relationship with the board and positive relationship with the faculty, I'm not suggesting that students aren't important, but the students change every couple of years.
Yeah.
Whereas the faculty and the board are the people that you deal with all along. And I've been gratified by a great faculty that I said is understood when we haven't always been able to do everything. You know, there are a couple of years we weren't able to provide a cost of living adjustment. And, you know, we went through the situation that we were faced with, and transparency and openness with them has made a real difference. So if you've got the faculty, you've got the board on your side, you can get a lot done.
Great advice. Tell us, last question for you. What do you see for the future of higher education, Alan?
I have no idea.
No one
and
does.
So
what do you think?
and I'm being completely honest with you. I could make up stuff. I don't think anyone has any idea what's going to happen in Washington. I don't think anyone has any idea what's going to happen politically. So I could make stuff up, but there's a method to that answer, which is, so we're trying to be prepared for all possible eventualities. Rather than betting on what we think is going to happen, I'm acknowledging the fact that we just don't know, and we're trying to be prepared for all eventualities.
Well, and we hope that somewhere along the line, we as educators can regain the majority of the public's trust in higher education, and bring back the value of a college degree that many international students have of a college degree. And especially in countries that are not as well off as the United States, they see a college degree as a path to greatness, to financial prosperity. And that's what we do, right? We prepare graduates to increase their knowledge and hopefully overall generational wealth, and by taking advantage of a college degree or multiple college degrees. So hopefully at least that, or at least I hope for that.
You're 100% right. The data still show that a college degree has tremendous value, longer life expectancy, greater earnings. The data are still strong. It's people's confidence in those data that have eroded for a variety of ancillary reasons. And I think that I do hope that we can do exactly and accomplish exactly what you said. A lot of us are trying to figure out better ways to do it, but I wouldn't want to make any predictions.
Well, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here. We're going to come back to Dr. Kadish in a little while. We'll ask him that question again, what he thinks about the future of higher education, until he gives us a good prediction. But perhaps the answer is exactly what he said. We just don't know. We are going to take it one student at a time, collectively, those that are leading in higher ed. Every graduate counts. We have to put our faith and focus in our staff, our faculty, and ultimately the students, and then hopefully we'll all be okay when we come out of it. Definitely technology is going to find its way in, as Dr. Kadish said, into the work that we do. Are you going to use it to try to keep out something, or use it to enhance something? That's about effort and where we put our efforts in the future. Dr. Kadish, we hope you had a good time on this podcast today, and that you enjoyed yourself talking about you and your institution.
It's been great, incredibly perceptive. And as you mentioned earlier, you did this 340 times before, and it shows. Well,
thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's your guest today. He's Dr. Alan Kadish. He is the president at Touro University. Check him out and all of the locations and great work that they're doing. And you know what you've done? You've just EdUp'd.
Now listen up.
Insights EDU 2025 is almost here. Join us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management event of the year.
I like that.
Imagine 3 action-packed days filled with game-changing insights, real-world case studies, and a hands-on workshop designed to transform your marketing strategy and boost your program enrollment. Learn from speakers at Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the nation. Network with industry leaders, exchange ideas, and discover the tools to drive real results. This is your opportunity to stay ahead of the competition and meet the demands of today's modern learners. Don't wait. Spots are filling fast. Mark your calendar, rally your team, and head to insightsedu.com to register now. The era of the modern learner is here, and you need to be part of it. We'll see you in New Orleans. At Lucian Live 2025, we're going to explore the magic of innovation. We want to imagine, believe, and achieve. It's happening April 6th through 9th, 2025 in Orlando, Florida, and we're going to explore technology, modernization, and
artificial intelligence.
Explore the latest technology solutions, discover industry insights, and make valuable connections as a global community. It's time to register for Ellucian Live 2025 at elive.ellucian.com.
Do you want to get invites to special events? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes episodes, and original content? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.